that, I'll turn it over to Senator Scott.
Thank you. Chief Butler, I understand that one of the major obstacles firefighters faced when responding to the Palisades fire was simply getting there. The Palisades neighborhood's on the outskirts of LA and has a lot of winding, narrow roads. I got to drive on some of them. Traffic was gridlocked when panicked residents tried to flee, and there was no sort of, as what they explained to me, and you look at the video, there was no evacuation plan that anybody seemed to follow. Some questioned when I was out there, they said, well, if the fire department knew there was a fire risk in the area, why didn't they pre-deploy trucks with water, and especially knowing that the reservoirs were empty, why didn't they pre-deploy trucks and firefighters? So can you tell us a little bit about what happened?
Yeah, and specifically what I like to focus on is what they did before. And so pre-deployment, I used to tell folks, it's not a slogan. It's we get the resources in there quick and early. And because you have forecasted winds in advance. So what I would do in my commands is when I knew this was going to happen or I had the winds in advance, we would put resources into those communities. First, it's better protection, limits, to your point, the response time, and it also allows us to get a jump on any fire. But all of these plans are actually well written and documented and trained. In every promotional exam I've taken in this department, you need to know the Palisades plan, the evacuation plans. So it wasn't that they didn't exist, is that they were not executed upon. And once the fire got started, that became completely unmanageable because a wind-driven fire at that point, there's unrealistic that you'll stop it. But pre-deployment is the reason we do this. Weather forecasting is the reason we do this. And I've done it well over 30 times in my career. And it's not something that I invented. It's something that's institutionalized in the fire department.
So why didn't they pre-deploy?
That would be a leadership decision.
Okay, when you say leadership, let's go through. Okay, so you have the chief of the LA Fire Department, right? Then who's right above the chief?
The chief, the mayor.
Okay, so the leadership is just one person.
Well, it's the hierarchy of the department has command staff, and each one of those individuals, including when I was part of it, has an absolute responsibility to ensure all those systems are in place. And for a 10-day weather event to be brought upon them with all that knowledge not to take action, I think it's important to find out exactly what happened, who didn't make the decision, and who put the public at risk.
So somebody at the fire department or the mayor's office made the decision.
Absolutely.
Now that would be in the after action report, right? They would say specifically what happened, right? They would put that out.
That should absolutely be in it. In fact, after action reports in California are governed by state law, that they have to have all this information in them.
So
and that would be in there.
Have you read it? Did it have it in there?
I've read it. They had no reference to it. I did read it. I read some of the drafts. But I think by the department's own admission, it was watered down to protect reputations. In their own words, they were quoted as saying.
All right. So Chief Crawford, you've read the after action reports. Did they say exactly how the decisions were made and who made the decision?
I have read the after action report, and it does not state those decisions, which
Does that surprise you?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. No, it does not. And the reason being is that, there's typically in after action reviews and previous incidents or previous things that have been put out, there's always been a discussion of how much is shown for public and how much is for private. So I'm going to say that I'm not surprised that happened. One other point that I'd like to make to piggyback on Chief Butler when it comes to resources and pre-positioning, there's plenty of opportunities to get this right. And they even had technology tools. There's a wildfire threat intelligence and integration center in California that they have, and they have a predictive services tool that shows seasonal weather patterns. It shows where the heaviest winds are going to be, and none of those were used. None of that was also talked about in the after action report. One other thing was a predictive fire modeling with a Wi-Fi, what we call Wi-Fi. This is an evacuation tool that the department came to use in 2017. I helped instrument it with UC San Diego, and it's the 95 to 98% accuracy. And that gives you a footprint of how many homes and what the population of the fire in its path using the nearest weather station. That data is used to create the footprint, and it's very, very accurate. That is an important tool to understand who's at risk and where the fire is going to be with impact times. That was not used, nor was that also in the after-action review. So the question is that how did you arrive at the decision not to staff properly, and why you do not pre-deploy? That was not inside of the after-action review, and I think it's a glaring question.
And so would that be a decision by somebody in the mayor's office or somebody in the fire department?
So it would be at the fire department. So the way it goes is you have the fire chief, and then below the fire chief was known as the command staff, comprised of 9 deputy chief officers. And then there's a flow of what we call assistant chiefs. Total of chiefs on the LAFD is about 96 to 99 chief officers. Those 9 to 10 chief officers typically have a conference call, and they all get on with this, and there's other people who are on the call, but the decision typically is made to pre-deploy or not to pre-deploy. It's staff. Staffing is different than pre-deployment. Pre-deployment is location where you put resources. Staffing is how many people you will have on duty. Those are 2 critical decisions that needed to be determined during these calls. The actions did not arise to the level of the particularly dangerous situation, and that's the type of pre-incident decision-making that highlighted why we're at a $33 billion request.
So when we have, the way it worked in Florida, when we had a hurricane, we had, it's been 7 years now, but I think we had twice a day, we had every emergency manager in the state on with the state emergency management team. So did they do daily briefings for the fire department before the fire?
I could speak to that, Senator. In Redondo Beach, there was at least a half a dozen conference calls because our city was worried about a gale force wind in our harbor. So I personally sat on 3 or 4 of those calls. My staff did as well, because those calls started on December 27th. And I looked at those risks for my city to begin planning what it might do in our city. And so those conference calls exist. I submitted records, probably over 422 pages, more than folks are interested in. But I have all the conference call notes because this is part of what we do.
So in Florida, the way they do it is you'd have all the, like a city like Miami has a county emergency management team, and there's like 37 cities there. So they would all coordinate on their own, and then everybody would coordinate through the state. So do you do the same thing in LA County?
So what happens in the calls I was on, we use a similar model where the city agencies each have their own risk, and then they have county emergency operations or county emergency managers. And then through that system, the National Weather Service feeds information, and so they're not feeding into 50 different agencies. And then we have routine calls, sometimes as many as 3 times a day, updates on weather and forecasting. That's exactly how the system works. And that's why on this event, starting 10 days out, these discussions were going on.
But nobody acted.
In the city of Los Angeles, from my observation, what I saw, what I witnessed, not at a meaningful level.
Yeah, okay, thank you.